Now then, folks, how are we doing? It's James, JT at the movies, and I'm joined by my good friend and frequent collaborator, Phil.
Hi.
And you've seen him on the channel before, you've heard me mention him in many videos, you've seen the band. Here's the legend himself.
Yeah, we did the Bond marathon together. We've done some really silly ones. We've had a lot of fun.
I think the Christopher Nolan one is, for anybody who's been around since day one, that was one of the first videos I put up on the channel, was the Nolan marathon, and then we revisited that when we went to see Tenet. And I suppose we'll be revisiting it again in a few weeks when we go see Oppenheimer, won't we? It's mental how that's come round. But that's not what today's video is about. So tomorrow, here in the UK, it is the release of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And I can't believe it's come round, can you?
No, I've like been so excited about it for ages.
It's literally been years in the making, and I can't believe we're a day out from it. And I wanted to do something on the channel to sort of celebrate the run up to that, if you like. And I was thinking about, do I do in-depth dives on the films, and do I do whatever else? And then we got talking, as me and Phil often do at the pub, and we're like, should we just do a marathon? So
always
it's
always a marathon. It's the best answer.
The only answer. So we're going to watch the 4 films that have been released, and we're also going to watch the combined episodes of the Young Indiana Jones series, the TV movie Mystery of the Blues, where Harrison Ford reprises his role as Indy as well. It felt only right to watch all sort of entries of Harrison Ford into the series, so that's going to be the one exception from the main 4 films. And then tomorrow night we're going to go to the cinema and we're going to watch Dial of Destiny. So we'll check in with you after each film and sort of give you our brief thoughts and a rating out of 10 as we normally do with these things. But before we jump into Raiders, what are you thinking about Dial of Destiny, mate? Where are you at?
I sort of just hope it's good.
Yeah,
I really liked it. They're keeping up with Harrison Ford's age in terms of like the sections of history that they're doing.
Yeah.
So it's set more around the sort of 1960s, 70s.
Yeah, I think it's 69. I think it's the time of the moon landing. I think the moon landing might have something to do with the plot.
Right. Okay. So yeah, to be honest, I've seen the trailer. Other than that, I don't know anything about it. And that is by design. With a film like this, I've deliberately just stayed away from any press or anything like that.
Absolutely.
So I just hope it's good. I hope they don't kill him.
Yeah. That's pretty much my only hope for it, is that, as soon as they said that Jim Mangold was going to do it, and he did a wonderful job with Logan for the Swan Song, and he did, because that film is spectacular.
Awesome. Yeah.
But it just seems to be the theme of late, doesn't it? Sort of, obviously, again, Harrison Ford, they killed Han Solo, and then changed their mind and brought him back for the sequel. But still, they killed him.
I think it was supposed to be Carrie Fisher, to be fair.
Yeah, that's what I think
let's
too.
say unavailable.
Yeah, she was a little bit, wasn't she? But then obviously the disaster that was No Time to Die, in my opinion anyway, killing off James Bond, and obviously, like I say, Logan, and it just seems to be this trend, doesn't it, of sort of killing off these sort of characters that have been in cinema for decades.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were going to do it with Tom Cruise in Maverick, but
yeah, absolutely, and they made you think right until the last minute that they were going to do, didn't they? And then they gave you that 4th act sort of thing. But yeah, that's my biggest hope, is that they don't do it. I suppose if it's done tastefully like Logan was, I might not be 100% on board with it, but I could probably live with it.
Yeah.
But if they just James Bond it, then I think that'd be a real shame. What I really want to see is him sort of, literally, metaphorically, however, riding off into the sunset with Marion.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be really, really nice if they can, because they brought Salah back, and I've not seen anything to confirm or deny that she's in it, other than that I think her name's on one of the posters. Karen Allen this is, but I really hope that she sort of rocks up at the end just to be there, sort of open arms and welcome back from your adventure, now go put your slippers on and watch the telly sort of thing,
It is going to be really cool to see him like interacting with characters from previous movies as well.
Absolutely.
It's not just him, it's it's
Salah's
the
there,
unit.
yeah.
Because Indiana Jones it's always been a team effort,
Absolutely, yeah, and obviously they lost Marcus Elliott, didn't they? Then not Marcus Elliott, Marcus Brody, Denholm Elliott. They were in there somewhere, Phil, but obviously they lost him in the 90s, and then Connery's retired and then now gone as well. So the team were dwindling, weren't it? So
yeah.
I think it's good that they've definitely got Salah back, and like I say, fingers crossed that Marion rocks up in it as well. I tell you what I would love as well, before we jump into Raiders, a short round cameo.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I don't think we're going to get it. I think that's wishing for the moon a bit. But
Ki-Hai Kwan's like one of my favourite people at the minute.
yeah,
Like,
he's superb, isn't he? I'm
so cool.
so happy for his resurgence. He's done brilliantly. But that's enough of a bit of an intro. There will be timestamps down below, folks, as well. So that if you want to jump to our thoughts on a particular film, we're going to try and keep it to about 5 minutes per film, and then do a spoiler-free out of the cinema reaction to Dial of Destiny at the end. I'll follow this up, and if you want to join me, Phil, you can in about a week's time with spoiler thoughts. But it'll be spoiler-free for the new one with this. Obviously, we'll talk fair game for the rest of it because it's been out for 30 years.
Yeah,
I think the statute of limitations on that succeeded.
Yeah.
Or expired even. But there we are. So we're going to jump into Raiders of the Lost Ark and we'll see you after that. Raiders.
Just want Raiders.
It's great.
It's great. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. What can we say about Raiders of the Lost Ark that hasn't already been said in a million book reviews, DVD reviews, podcasts?
I mean, it is my second favourite.
Yeah, it's my second favourite
behind Crusade, but it's just a great classic adventure movie. Like, I mean, we were sort of picking holes in it.
We were, to be fair,
but like little, like daft little cliches and stuff is fine. It's like
that wouldn't work, would it? Or what the hell's he done that for?
Well, that was convenient, wasn't it?
Yeah,
there's a lot of that. But
yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't take away from the enjoyment of the movie.
Not at all. No, Harrison Ford's obviously spectacular in the role. We were talking about obviously the fact that it was nearly Tom Selleck.
Yeah, that
right until the 11th hour.
Would have been very weird.
I don't think we'd be watching a fifth entry into the franchise in 2023.
No, I don't.
If it was Tom Selleck.
I don't think they would have even stretched to make a second one, to be honest. I don't think it would have worked. Like, I like Tom Selleck. I've seen him in some great stuff. I mean, like, stuff like Quickly Down Under, and he is awesome, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, I can't sort of get my mind around that either. It's almost like the Eric Stoltz thing in Back to the Future, isn't it?
Yeah, it just wouldn't have.
Wouldn't have worked. Yeah. But yeah, it's great. We watched the 4Ks this time. As a lot of collectors have done, got these amazing steel books when they came out. So yet another version of Indiana Jones to add to the collection, but they are, aren't they? I did not need them at all. I already got the 4K box set, I've got the Blu-ray box set, I've got the DVDs, I've got the VHS, I've got the Laserdisc.
That'll be done.
But yeah, these came out and I was just like, normally I'm not the sort of guy that would double dip, but if it's indie, Star Wars, Batman or James Bond, it's happening. But yeah, so we watched this. It's my first time watching the 4K through. I didn't think that it was that much superior over the Blu-ray. There were bits where I went, oh yeah, that's sharp.
There's moments where you notice it, like the big wide shot scenes with a lot going on, and you can pick the details up. But no, I didn't really notice a huge amount of difference.
No, yeah, it was sort of negligible, but it still looked great on the TV. The film holds up as well. We said there were a couple of effects, especially towards the end, that maybe haven't aged as well as some of the other things, but the majority of it's aged quite well, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's mostly like there's a lot of practical effects in it, and it's mostly quite, as most of the stuff with Steven Spielberg, it's quite tasteful, quite subtle, quite well hidden.
Yeah.
You can't really tell how they do it. The bit where he's trailing underneath
under the truck.
The truck. I mean, there's no way you could actually do that in real life. Like even a stunt double would.
Yeah, get torn to shreds.
Very much struggle with it, but yeah, it's I like that because it leaves a bit to the imagination about how they don't make it obvious, and it's just I love Spielberg, man. Like Steven Spielberg's a genius.
He's the master of his craft, really, and these films are just a testament to it. And again, been said a million times before, but the supporting cast in this, obviously Paul Freeman as the villain Belloc, Karen Allen as Marion,
Denham Elliott, who I adore. I think he's brilliant.
He's superb in there, and then obviously John Rhys-Davies rounding it out as well. It's just a superb ensemble cast for this, and they work so well together, don't they?
Yeah, there's a lot of very cool bits of dialogue and really cool bits of characters bouncing off each other. Harrison Ford's got great chemistry with almost everyone.
Yeah, he's just superb, isn't he? Really, and there's nothing much more to say other than it's just a great jumping off point for this franchise.
Harrison Ford's definitely an actor who thrives on his interaction with other actors.
Yeah, definitely.
And when you give him a cast like this, I mean, he's unstoppable.
Absolutely. Well, for me, Phil, I would give this one an 8 out of 10. Where are you at?
I'm going to go 8 because it's just a classic. You know, it's one of the great adventure movies.
It is,
especially of the 80s, and it's one of Spielberg's absolute triumphs among the the absolute gold swimming pool of whatever else he's done.
Yeah, that's it.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
we're 40 years on from its release, and it's stood the test of time. And I think in another 40 years, I think it'll still be here, and time again. But we're going to move now on to Temple of Doom, which has always been my least favourite of the franchise.
It's not my favourite either.
But we'll see how it fares in a marathon setting, and we'll see you after that. We're back after Temple of Doom.
That was hard work.
That was really hard work, was that? I just said to Phil literally just before we put it on, I was hoping that it'd be, sort of have a newfound sort of love for it in the, in the hype, in the run up to Dial of Destiny or whatever. But that was probably one of the hardest watch throughs of that film I've ever had.
Yeah, I think that's possibly only like the third or fourth time I've seen it. Oh wow, I like this. I love to hate the sort of the first act because the introduction of the characters, and I mean short round I'm a big fan. It's interesting to see like a grown actress out acted by like an 8-year-old boy who doesn't speak a lot of English.
It's yeah, she's horribly miscast, isn't she? Kate Capshaw in this.
Absolutely horrendous.
Or it might not even, because to be fair, she plays the character wonderfully if the character's written like that. I think the character's probably the thing that's misplaced in this sort of film.
A lot of the film, it feels like they're sort of padding out time with this sort of separate comic relief storyline friendship thing that starts. I mean, like in the Maharaja's palace, there's the sort of scenes with her and Ki Kwan, and it's like they're sort of padding out the story with that.
Yeah, it's almost like they're a comedy double act, isn't it? Because Indy's having the conversation, isn't he, about, 100 years ago this happened, and the previous Maharaja did X, Y, and Z, and
it's
terrible
like
atrocities.
Serious going on over here, and
then them two, them monkey brains, and it's like, it wears thin. Willie really wears thin after the first act and the escape from Shanghai, and the "we're not sinking, we're crashing." I
love to hate the first act. I actually quite like the third act. The stuff on the bridge is pretty fun. There's a lot of really weird, convenient stuff going on. Like they suddenly have bows and arrows. That was weird. And then just in the nick of time, the British Army just appears out of nowhere.
Just rocks up to good chap here to save the day. Don't you worry.
Everything's already and Harrison Ford's still dangling over a bridge. Nobody's noticed him yet.
No, there's he might be dead, but he's great. Did you get the stone cracking? Don't worry about it. Yeah, Harrison Ford effortlessly slips back into the role of Indiana Jones.
He is great.
He is fantastic. And I don't know whether it was an intentional choice, because obviously it is a prequel, but I'm not sure whether it was always intended to be a prequel or whether it's just one of those things that they put a title card that says 1935 at the start and then just had to...
And then realised it
and had to roll with it, sort of thing. But it definitely works. Like there are quirks of the character in this one that also both lend themselves quite well to the darker tones of the story, because we both said that this one, obviously it's verging on horror. The
second act is horrifying. It's generally quite disturbing in places.
And I don't know. I don't know if this version on the 4Ks is slightly uncut. I've seen it a fair few more times than yourself, Phil, and there were scenes in this, only little bits that I didn't remember at all.
Yeah, there's one or two bits that I don't think I've seen before.
So I'd be curious to know whether or not there's scenes that are slightly extended or trimmed or whatever for, previous releases and TV broadcasts and the like. But yeah, Harrison Ford slips back in perfectly. Ki Kwan is great as a short round.
Yeah, their on-screen chemistry is great. I really enjoy that. Like they have this sort of bond that's really genuine.
Yeah,
and you can sort of tell that it's not just that they obviously know each other quite well as actors, and You know, I
yeah,
appreciate that.
the relationship's really genuine. And then I would say, aside from that, other than, you know, Spielberg's directing and John Williams' score, and then the character of Mola Ram's played really well. Forgive me, I don't know the actor's name, but I'll do the usual, put it on screen somewhere, make sure that credits are due. But other than that, I didn't get a lot of positives out of this time, mate.
No, I didn't really get on with it. Like I said, I love to hate the first act. The second act, the third act I quite enjoyed. Second act was weird and disturbing and horrifying, all the way from the bugs to the
ritual,
very last exhausting bit where you just want to let her fall into the pit and die, but she won't.
Yeah, it really felt like it dragged on, didn't it? That, yeah, it was not overly tired. I mean, you know, we've both, you know, been working today and whatever else, but not overly tired. So I don't feel like that's factored into it.
I don't think that's it.
But yeah, sort of with a 1-2 punch with Raiders, you can really tell the difference. And I think, do you know what? Fair play to them. They tried something different.
Yeah.
You know, they've obviously thought, well, we've got this great character. Let's put him into another situation that's, you know, polar opposite, really, in a lot of aspects to what he's just done before. And fair play to him for trying something different. For me, and I presume for you, from what we're saying, it didn't land.
No, I mean, it's nice to sort of see that, because one of the things that I found quite interesting with this one was that in Raiders and in Crusade, it's all very like Christian centric. It's all kind of, that's the folklore of the story is surrounded by is all this stuff in the Bible, and then you've got the second one, which is more based in like, I mean, it's weird because it's set in like,
is it Hindu or?
Yeah, I think so, but it's more sort of like what's actually happening is more like Afro-Caribbean voodoo kind of stuff, which is a bit, I think it's just a bit of a mismatch.
I'm not well enough read on it, but it's certainly a different culture and a different background. That it's nice for them to tap into that.
It's just interesting to see that there's like an archaeologist. He's not just picked one thing that he's.
Yeah, like you said, that they're not all just Bible versus the Nazis sort of thing. Yeah, that is one of the positives of the film in general. But for me, on this particular rewatch, I think I'm going to go 6 out of 10.
I'm going to go 5.
Fair enough.
Really
so,
enjoy it.
Yeah, there we go. So, went into it with a fairly open mind and sadly came out with not delivering the goods for us on this watch. Let us know down below in the comments what you think anyway about Temple, because I know that this one and Crystal Skull, which we'll get to in due course, are the divisive ones so far of the franchise. So it'll be interesting to see where we come out on Crystal Skull with this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching it.
Because I've always been a defender of it right from day dot. So
I remember enjoying it.
Yeah.
Last time I saw it.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll see. But that's it for day one of this marathon. We will join you tomorrow morning when we pick things back up with my favourite film of all time, bar none, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Probably in my top 10, possibly top 5. It's wonderful. I love it.
It really is. So
really looking forward to seeing it again.
Look forward to watching that one with you. We'll see you after that. We've just finished The Last Crusade.
Awesome.
Yeah, no shocker there that it's bloody fantastic.
It's just great. It's just like it's one of the. Well, I reckon it is the greatest adventure movie ever made.
We were saying this while we were watching it, weren't we? And I'm inclined to agree with you. It's just absolutely spectacular. This film, for me, as I've said many times on this channel, holds a really special, really dear place to me. You know, it was one of the first films I ever remember being shown when I was really sort of old enough to watch things that weren't like cartoons and like Rugrats or Tom and Jerry or whatever.
Well, that was Jurassic Park.
Exactly, yeah. And you know, I've told the story many times of, you know, me and my dad one rainy Saturday afternoon when my mum and my sister were out, sort of, you know, sitting down to watch this film, and him sort of being so excited to show me, and sort of me not being sold on the idea, as kids often aren't, and then being hooked the minute it started. And it's only something that my love has grown, and like, I would comfortably say now is my favourite film of all time. Yeah,
it's definitely one of mine. I think it's probably in my top 10. I mean, it's the details with it, like obviously, you know, the relationship that he has with Sean Connery's character, like their on-screen chemistry is fantastic.
It's superb, isn't it?
Marcus Brody's great. Like he, you know, Denham Elliott's one of my favourite actors because you really believe with Brody that he's got this history with Henry Jones, and he's just on the level completely.
And he's sort of always grown up being like an uncle to Indy sort
Yeah,
of
his
thing.
family, and
Yeah,
Saturn and Salah's back as well, which is great.
absolutely. It's like the band's all there and everyone's along for the ride, and it just all works perfectly. The pacing of the film's absolutely fantastic. There's never a point where it feels like it's dragging, is there? All like,
No.
there's not a scene in that, to my mind anyway, where you go, oh, you could have had that one cut out, and it wouldn't make a difference.
And the opening scenes it is the greatest like childhood background story, like flashback.
Fleshing out a character.
It's fantastic. I can't think of a better one.
No,
River Phoenix is amazing.
Absolutely, it's such a shame that he's no longer with us. I really think he'd probably be carrying the franchise now.
I think he'd be, I think he'd be doing the sort of stuff that like sort of your Johnny Depps and
Jared Leto
and people like that are doing, and maybe even like Leo DiCaprio and to that, in that sort of crowd. It really shows off his acting ability. I mean, we've seen him as a kid in stuff like Mosquito Coast and Stand By Me, but when you see him in this, he nails the mannerisms of the older Indiana Jones character so perfectly.
Yeah, it's like you know you're watching Indy the minute because they do that
you
sort
really
of
believe it.
They do that thing, don't they, where you don't know who the kids are at first.
Yeah.
So they don't tell you when in time it is, and then you see the guy who's obviously the inspiration for Indy, sort of the fedora, as I think he's credited in the film, isn't there? And you see him from the back, and they don't show his face, and you sort of think, well, this is Indiana Jones, and so what are these kids going to do? And then the switch reveal is that the kid's Indiana Jones. And it's just that, it's like you say, it's just exceptional. And when they bring it into the main film and sort of that transition where he puts the hat on him, and then when he sort of
and he's on the boat with the Cross of Coronado again, like it's great because I love how it explains things about the character as well, like where the scar on his chin came from, why he's afraid of snakes, like it kind of all the questions about his backstory are sort of just wrapped up in this one little bit.
And it doesn't feel forced either, does it? Like we've said many times on our podcast, which is actually named after this film, our podcast Lost in His Own which is obviously named for the exchange between Henry and Indy about Marcus Brody. But we've sort of said many times, like, the exposition, when it's done clunkily, and sometimes characters will speak in exposition
to move the plot forward.
It's horrible, but it's done perfectly here, and it just gives you everything that you need.
It's beautifully scripted. It's very well shot as well. I mean, the camera work's exceptional. I mean, it's Spielberg.
It's fantastic, and it's really nice for them to return to form as well, because, like, well, I've seen this dozens of times, but we were sort of saying in the opening credits and stuff like that, right? They've gone back to that Raiders feel sort of thing, and you can really feel it. It's like, right, we tried something with Temple, it didn't work.
Didn't really land, so we're going back to
So we're going back to what works, and I think that everything that was great about Raiders is dialed up to 11 here.
Yeah,
and I just absolutely perfect. Alison Doody as Elsa's great, Julian Glover as Donovan, Michael Byrne as the lead Nazi soldier. The villains are fantastic, like you said, Steno Elliott and John Rhys-Davies as Salah. It's superb. Sean Connery is phenomenal, and we were saying watching it as well, you don't always think just how good of an actor Sean Connery was, but like watching this, you hear the voice and you know it's James Bond. But nothing in the performance was James Bond, was it? You didn't look at him at any point and think, well, that's just James Bond.
Well, I think, like I say, he's done that thing that a lot of actors do, is they sort of get older and they're starting to come out of that getting cast as the good-looking guy thing, where they have to really start knuckling down and getting and become someone that gets hired for jobs like this because they're really good, rather than because they're good-looking. And I think Sean Connery's smashed that. One bit that I've never noticed it before, but because you said about the she talks in her sleep, so like an improvised line, which I didn't know, which is brilliant. They cut to a reaction shot of Sean Connery, and he goes through like 4 different emotions in just a few seconds, and you can see the wheels turning in his head, going from sort of embarrassment to like a little bit of pride, and then he realizes he's talking to his son, and he's embarrassed again, and it's great. He's just
that chemistry that they have. I think any other actors in the role, it just wouldn't have landed, and it's just one of those rare sort of moments in Hollywood where pretty much everything's perfect. You know, there's things that you can nitpick about this film, and we did when we watched it. We're watching all of them critically.
Yeah.
You know, and there's things, isn't there? You know, sort of the, like you said, the bit with the catacombs with the oil down there and the dripping
That's the
torch.
only bit that I kind of really do pick a hole in, because it just doesn't.
And
you can see the fire like dripping.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's petrol. Like, it's all, everyone's gonna die. But,
yeah, exactly.
It's, you let it slide because it's really good.
Absolutely, yeah. But you know, for me, it's my favourite film. I think it will always be my favourite film, and this viewing was no exception. I absolutely just had a blast with it, and it's really got me even more pumped for DOD tonight. I'm going to give this one a very rare 9 out of 10.
I'm going to go 9.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're going to change things up a little bit at this point, folks. And you might be thinking we're jumping on a Crystal Skull, but we are in the fullness of time. But we are going to watch the Young Indiana Jones episodes that have been compiled into a TV movie, The Mystery of the Blues. And if you're not familiar with why we might be watching that, it's because Harrison Ford bookends the episode as Indiana Jones telling the story. And I thought, like, since we're watching all of Harrison Ford's indie appearances in the run up to his final run, that it would be remiss of us to exclude it.
And I've never seen this, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And it's got a nice sort of nod as well, because it's sort of some of the story in it sort of links into like Al Capone and that sort of world as well, which is quite nice, sort of almost a nod to Sean Connery in The Untouchables.
Yeah, I like that.
But yeah, so we're going to watch Mystery of the Blues now, and we'll see you after that. We've just finished the TV movie Indiana Jones and the Mystery of the Blues. You've not seen this one before,
No,
have you?
I've never seen it. It's alright.
Yeah, not amazing.
No, it's fun. It's good fun. There's a lot of like really cool little history nods in there, because I'm really into like in the sort of 1920s Prohibition history in Chicago and New York and all that gangster stuff. And
it's
quite interesting seeing all these characters coming out.
Yeah, it's been a few years since I've seen this. I think probably. How long have you lived back up in Leeds now? Is it about 4 years?
About 4 years' time, yeah.
Yeah. So it was just after you moved back up that I watched this, because I remember saying, "Oh, you should watch this." So that's the last time I watched it. But I think you made a really good point when you sort of said the setup with Indy sort of meeting Jeffrey Wright's character as Sidney in the blues band, and him learning to play the saxophone and all that sort of stuff. It seemed to take up more of the story than perhaps it needed to, and then
they just kind of drag it out, and then it's not really like when it gets into the proper story, the setup's not really relevant to any of it.
No, it's all just background, isn't it?
Like, it's sort of like the characters aren't even there. They're not even you meet all these new characters, and then it gets into the main story, and it's
because I don't know if you sort of caught it, but the first time I watched it, so. They go to the church, and he meets Sidney's friend and the family and everything, and they go back, and then the young lad's there, and he's also served in the war the same as Indy, but he's not been looked after when he's come back because he's black.
Yeah.
And he's sort of saying that he's fought in riots before, and his dad's proper brassed off with him or whatever. And the first time I watched it, I thought that the reveal was going to be that he was behind the shooting.
Yeah.
In some sort of that there'd be some sort of you've let me down sort of a. Sort of race motivated sort of thing. But yeah, like you say, once it sort of gets going, it turns out that Al Capone's behind it all. Yeah. And Al Capone really has no to do with it other than a bit of a walk on in essence.
Yeah, it's weird because it's kind of because these are like real life historical figures, and it's it actually happened. Like Big Jim Colosimo was actually murdered by Al Capone, and it's like It's sort of, I don't know if it's just because I know that where I didn't see any other possible
outcome
plot twist that they were going to try and do, or if they were doing false flag plot twists, they're like, oh, this is the mystery of who shot.
Whatever else. And so I thought it was funny that they sort of teamed him up with his roommate was Elliot Ness, who sort of goes on to be one of the leading men in the founding of the FBI, doesn't he?
And you've got Ernest Hemingway as as
an up and coming reporter, and it's them three that sort of team up, and it's It was fun, but it was sort of bordering on sort of like superhero sort of level, you know.
Yeah.
All that they needed was Sherlock Holmes back in the Batcave, sort of giving them.
It was a bit silly, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was really nice to obviously bring it back to why we watched it. Obviously, Harrison Ford bookends it, and he's probably got 10 minutes of the whole thing, if that, of screen time. And I think it's just nice. There's nothing like you can't really sort of turn around and sort of say that, you know, it's his best performance as Indy, or in the 10 minutes that he's in it, he does something that's really defining for the character, and sort of it serves a purpose in being there. It's really just, I think, the fact that he's good mates with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, and they've gone, look, you know, we've got this story, do you fancy doing a walk-on sort of thing? And
yeah, it seems to be the crack, like.
And other than bridging a little bit of a gap that we know he was still on adventures between Last Crusade and Crystal Skull, it doesn't really serve any sort of purpose in being there, does it?
No, not really. I mean, I suppose like none of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles really do anyway. It's just sort of it's nice to have a bit of a backstory and a bit of continuation that, you know, where they can sort of, they can go back and do things that have been referenced a little bit in the movies, or you know, when they're bringing a new movie out, they've got something else that can go back and reference. But it's just fun. It's just nice little Easter egg, nice sort of.
That's it, isn't it? It's an Easter egg, isn't it? And it's like I said when we were watching it, it's almost the equivalent of like when we did the James Bond marathon, and anybody else that's marathon those movies. It's like watching either the black and white Casino Royale or the Peter Sellers one. It's sort of like a nice
curio, isn't it?
Yeah, curio. Yeah, exactly the word I was trying to think of. But yeah, unless you're a diehard fan, or if you're doing a marathon or whatever, I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, you're watching the series. I wouldn't say go and seek this one out. Yeah. But it's perfectly enjoyable. Do you know? I think I'd go 5 out of 10 for that, mate.
I'd give it about 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I like the history element. I like the real characters and the kind of, because there's something about that. It's like you know, you get TV shows like Black Sails, or like Peaky Blinders. You know, you've got real people
in and amongst the story,
with this fictional story. Like, I do quite like that.
Absolutely, yeah. There was some nice little sort of nods and winks to you know, like I say, to history and to things that we know Indy sort of becomes as well. Well, we've got the last film that we're going to watch at home now, which is Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull from 2008. Cautiously optimistic for this one. I've not seen this one in a few years, and I've always enjoyed it more than I've enjoyed Temple of Doom. And I'm really curious to see whether or not all the years of seeing the memes and the hate and the almost loathing for it on the internet has clouded my judgment, or whether watching it with maybe a maturer set of eyes and in series with them all, because that makes a difference whether or not I feel the same way. But
I'm looking forward to watching it, because the last time I saw it was, I think I sort of got caught up in the sort of internet hatred for it, and then I remember just being really surprised by how much I enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So we'll see you after the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Hello again, Crystal Skull. We've just finished it, and with finishing that's the at-home part of the marathon finished.
That's done. It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
I enjoyed it. It does get daft towards the end. The third act is just it's a bit messy, and it's a bit sort of it's distracting from like the main plot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have any problems with the overall plot per se, because one of the biggest criticisms that always seems to get landed for this film is that folk are like, oh, well, it's aliens and it's stupid and it's this and it's that. And
it's not any more stupid than the other ones.
Well, exactly, yeah. How, you know, sort of, you know, right, because there's a 700-year-old man in a cave, or there's a bloke in another cave pulling hearts out, or there's a guy opening a box in a third cave that eats everybody alive. But, you know, I suppose, joking aside, it's no more far-fetched, no more fantastical. It's just you know, while these guys have gone, you know, religious sort of history, this has gone sort of like science fiction-y, but, you know, and exploring that.
But somehow also religious history.
Yeah, because it sort of links in with the conquistadors, doesn't it, and all that.
Yeah, and the theory that, like, the reason why a lot of the civilizations on the planet were so far advanced to what they should have been, that, like, aliens helped them, which It's, you know,
it's as feasible as anything else, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But Harrison Ford, again, puts in a great performance. He slips back into the role of Indiana Jones like he's never been away. There's obviously the biggest gap in the whole franchise between Crusade and this one. I think it was bang on 20 years, was it? Or 19 years or something. Yeah. But, you know, it was a bloody long time, and it feels like he's never been away. And having had this film now for another 15 years or whatever it's been out, which is mental, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember it coming out.
It feels more cohesive with the original trilogy than perhaps it once did. As well, like I didn't feel like there was a massive jump in quality or
production
values,
there was a jump in sort of tone either.
Yeah,
like they kept it quite grounded with the rest of them, which is
absolutely
cool.
I think just sort of on your point there, I think that's one of the things about the third act, obviously, that the pacing for me I don't particularly care for.
Yeah.
But obviously the other ones are really big on the practical effects, and whilst there was definitely some in this, obviously when it's revealed that it's aliens and they're opening the portal to the other world, obviously it becomes a sort of a George Lucas CGI fest.
Big CGI fest,
and so I get that criticism of it, but obviously, like we said, it's not a perfect movie at all. But I just don't understand the hate of it. It's nice to see Karen Allen back as Marion. She fits in well, and I think, you know, it was the right thing to do. It was either give him, you know, the sort of one true love of his life, or don't bother. I think at this stage, I think that was the only way it could have really gone. I think introducing a new love interest to a, you know, as he is in this one, 60-year-old Indiana Jones would have been.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with the new one. Whether they're going to do like the they're still married and still happy, or if they're going to do like the Jurassic Park 3 thing of they're divorced and it's complicated, but
yeah, but they still talk to each other. Yeah,
which, you know, it adds comedic value, I suppose.
Yeah, because I reckon with Mutt, who we'll talk about in a moment, I reckon they're going to send him off to Vietnam.
Yeah, or he's going to have volunteered and gone on his own.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't mean that they've shipped him off, but I mean like he's been drafted or he's volunteered, and absolutely. That's why I think they'll explain his absence away. I don't think they'll go so far as to kill him off, because I think that would just be put a downbeat that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, Shia LaBeouf's one of these sort of factors in the movie where he gets a lot of hate, and really, other than the vine swinging bit, which I thought was a bit too much, I thought he fit in perfectly, and he was a good sort of counterpart to Indiana Jones sort of thing. He certainly wasn't anywhere near as annoying as Kate Capshaw, or even as much as I love Short Round, he wasn't as annoying as Short Round.
Yeah,
to me,
he's a good character, and he is a good actor, and at this point in his career, he hadn't gone off the rails yet.
Yeah.
So it's I like the character.
Like I said to you when we were watching it, I think there's a lot of retroactive hate put on him because of how he's behaved in the last sort of 10 years or so, with all his sort of method acting and, like you say, going off the rails and stuff like that. I think it's become popular to sort of hate him because of everything he's done since, sort of thing, and it sort of gets
he's fallen into that sort of like that unfortunate camp that a lot of young actors more recently have fallen into, where they find out about the things that Daniel Day-Lewis does, and they think it makes them better actors if they go for that, and it's like, so a lot of the time just doesn't really work.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it annoys people on set as well.
It does, absolutely it does. But yeah, I didn't find him annoying in this, nor have I ever done, and it was a nice pleasant rewatch, like I say, of the movies that are out so far. You know, the 4 main movies, this is the one I've watched the least. And it was really nice to have a bit of a refresh, and apart from that pacing in the third act, I didn't find myself getting bored at any point.
No, same here.
Enjoyed it. Fair enjoyed it. I think for this one, I'd go 7 out of 10.
I'm gonna go 6.5.
Fair enough. So what we're going to do now, folks, is we're going to head over to the cinema complex, and we're going to meet up with our respective girlfriends, have a bite to eat, and then we're going to go see Dial of Destiny in the cinema. So we'll shoot some footage along the way. We'll do some out of cinema reactions as well, but we might save the debrief like this until tomorrow. Maybe we'll see how we feel, see how it all falls. You'll see how it unfolds in this video. But yeah, we'll see you after Dial of Destiny. So we are just out of the cinema for Dial of Destiny. We're going to do a proper debrief on it tomorrow. But Phil, initial reactions?
Absolutely loved it.
It was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. I'm actually moved. Jesus Christ. We'll see you tomorrow for more, but yeah, nice one. It's the next day. Hello. So last night, as you saw, we went to see Dial of Destiny, and it was bloody brilliant.
It was awesome. Really enjoyed it.
We're going to keep this spoiler free. We are going to do a spoiler discussion afterwards. We're going to shoot it straight after this, but we'll release it a week or two down the line when it's a bit more. Yeah, safe. There's the word. But yeah, absolutely. Had a really great time with this film. It picks up with Indiana Jones at the start of the film in the 1940s, and I'm not telling you anything that's not in the trailer here.
Yeah.
And he's on an adventure to try and basically retrieve some artifacts of historical value from the Nazis. And he's aided by Basil, played by Toby Jones.
Which I didn't see that one coming because I didn't know he was in it. That was cool. It's always nice to see Toby Jones.
Absolutely
It's
brilliant.
always nice to see him not playing a really weird, creepy serial killer as well.
Or Dobby the House Elf.
Yeah, as good as he is at that.
Yeah.
Guy's terrifying.
He can be, can't he? Yeah. But he was great in this as sort of like the bumbling sort of sidekick sort of thing, and he filled the Marcus Brody sort of spot quite well, didn't he?
Definitely, yeah. He had that sort of that comic relief sidekick thing down, where you have this thing with Indy where he's always dragging people along with him that are kind of, their heart's in it, but they're
not up to the job. Yeah,
not up to the job, and he's never shot anybody before, and like that, all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then the story jumps forward 25 years to 1969, and basically Basil's daughter Helena, played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, turns up at Indiana Jones's retirement do, and lures him on one last adventure to basically get the titular Dial of Destiny.
Yeah,
and that's pretty much probably about as much as we can say without spoiling it, really.
Yeah,
isn't
I think that's about it. There's I really enjoyed I'm usually a bit funny about deep fakes, but it was tastefully done, and at least it was his voice, and like his voice as he is now, rather than
like
trying to make
done.
him sound like it.
It's interesting you comment on that, because the deep fake was about the only thing that I took issue with. I thought it was great when he was sort of stationary, like the scene where they pull the bag off his head, and you get that first look at him. I was like, wow, that's uncanny.
Yeah.
But then as the action started towards the end of that sequence in the 40s, it felt a bit sort of like a bit clunky in places almost, to my eye at least, anyway.
The technology's still just not quite there. Like, I think when it comes out on 4K, I mean, if we didn't notice it at the cinema, we wouldn't have noticed it at all. But I think it'll be noticeable. In higher definition, you'll spot it a bit more. But yeah, it was good. It was tastefully done. It was better than the Carrie Fisher deepfake at the end of Rogue One.
It was, yeah. I think that's fair. It certainly felt like it had more dimension to it. But like you said, I think the technology is just not quite there.
Yeah, it just isn't quite.
The film, it treads a lot of the same ground, which for an Indiana Jones film, that's what I wanted it to do. There's the story beats that you would expect from an Indiana Jones film. There's heroes, there's villains, there's allies we meet along the way that have these backstories with Indiana Jones that we've never seen and never will see. But instantly the chemistry's there.
It sort of gives credence to that thing where he's like not just the adventurer, but sort of like really, like those really cosmopolitan people that have got a guy for everything. He's like one of those.
Absolutely, yeah.
Most people have a shoe guy and a suit guy. He's got like a boat guy and a plane guy.
And a guns guy and a whatever else guy. Yeah, exactly that. And I felt that the pacing was great. To say that it was a nearly 3-hour movie. I think it was 2 hours 40 minutes or something like that.
2:45, wasn't it?
Yeah. It flew by.
Yeah, it wasn't. It didn't feel like a really long movie.
No, not at all.
And it didn't have that sort of extra fourth act thing really.
That some of these longer movies do. Yeah. It took some chances in the third act, is what I will say, and for me, they landed. Though I think we both said that we were sort of like gripping the seats, like
there was a little bit of like, please don't make a mess of this.
Yeah, but yeah, you've set off doing something. execute it right.
Yeah.
And for my money, and I think for yours as well, I don't want to speak for you, but I think they did.
I think they smashed it, yeah.
Yeah. And come back for the spoiler review, because this is definitely going to be something that we'll talk about. But there was a moment in it where they sort of looked a bit of a cliche dead in the eye and sort of flipped it on its head a bit, and I was really quite happy with that, because I just thought, oh no, they're gonna do the age old cliche, and then they, like I say, completely turned it on its head. And
there was a couple of those, to be honest. There was a couple of times in it where they sort of like, you could tell that the writers have been thinking, right, how do we not do that?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Which is, I mean, I don't mind. You know me. I'm like, I do quite like a cliche when it's done right, or you know, even when it's not subverting the cliche.
Yeah.
Like when that's just what it is. But yeah, I'm glad they kind of steered away from
absolutely
from a bit of that.
So we've already talked ratings privately, because like I say, it's the next day. But for me, I gave this a 7.5 out of 10.
I'm going to go 8.
High praise indeed.
Yeah.
I would say, folks, check this out in the cinema. It needs to be seen on the big screen, and then obviously when it comes out on physical media, get it added to your collections. I'm sure I will many times over, to go with that lot and the rest
all the rest of the collections.
the rest of the editions that are over there, and whatever
Blu-ray,
else.
the steelbook, the DVD,
the DVD, the Laserdisc, the VHS. It's I'm a bit mad.
You might have to film the VHS off the telly when it comes out. Dude, like we used to in the 90s, remember that?
Yeah, absolutely. But please go and check it out. I thought that it was the perfect swan song for Harrison Ford. If this is the one he signs out on, then he's going out on a great adventure film.
Yeah.
And
I was really happy with it.
Absolutely. So there we are, folks. That has been a mammoth video, and thank you very much to Phil for joining me. It's always great when we get together and do these marathons.
It's always a pleasure.
And yeah, absolutely. Check Phil out on Twitter. His handle's at the beginning of the video. It's in the description below at Twig Says. He's doing some great things there. We're in the band Leaving Overmorrow, so check us out on all your usual major streaming platforms. We'd really love the support there. If you've enjoyed this video, leave a comment down below with your thoughts on the new film Dial of Destiny. Of course, being mindful of spoilers, and as well your thoughts on the rest of the Indiana Jones films and this video in general. Let's just get a conversation going. If you've liked it, drop it a thumbs up. It lets YouTube know to keep making videos like this. And if you are new to the channel and you're seeing me and you're seeing the lovely Phil for the first time here, please think about subscribing. It means that I get to see you again in the future, and that it helps the channel to grow as well. And above all else, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you real soon. Bye for now.